For 300 years, the Crown of Alderfall rested on velvet in the Hall of Kings, untouched except by ceremony. It was a circlet of old gold, dull rather than shining, set with a single dark stone that never reflected light the same way twice. The royal scribes wrote that the crown had chosen the first king, not the other way around, and that it would do so again if the bloodline ever failed. Most people thought that was poetry. Putte had never even seen the Hall of Kings. He was born on the South Estates, where the soil was thin and the rules were thick. His mother cut grain for a lord who never learned her name. His father died hauling stone for a wall meant to keep other people out. Putte inherited their shackles along with their silence. By 16, he had learned the most important lesson of bondage: keep your head down, and no one bothers to notice whether you belong. Which was unfortunate, because the crown noticed him. The first sign was the dreams. Putte dreamed of cold stone floors and banners stirring without wind. He dreamed of standing barefoot before a throne too large for any one body. Always, there was a weight above him, never crushing, never falling, just waiting. When he woke, his head ached as if he had worn something heavy all night. He told no one. Slaves who spoke of dreams were whipped for idleness or worse for prophecy. Years passed. Kings rose and fell quickly now. The royal line had thinned into cousins and convenient marriages. Each coronation felt less certain than the last. The dark stone in the crown grew cloudier, or so the servants whispered, as if it were holding its breath. Then came the rebellion. It was small and desperate, led by men who had nothing left but anger. The crown crushed it in a week. Estates were searched, villages burned, and slaves marched in chains toward the capital to be questioned, sold, or executed depending on the mood of the court. Putte was among them. By chance, or by whatever force had been dreaming him awake, his chain broke during the march. Not fully, just enough. When chaos erupted at the city gates, when horses screamed and guards shouted contradictory orders, Putte ran. He did not run away. He ran toward the hill. No one could later explain how a half-starved slave crossed the outer walls, the inner walls, and the guarded stair without being stopped. Some said the guards were distracted. Others said they felt suddenly tired, or forgetful, or certain that Putte belonged where he was going. He reached the Hall of Kings at dawn. The doors were locked. They always were. When Putte touched them, they opened. Inside, dust hung in the air like breath held too long. The statues of former kings watched him with stone eyes worn smooth by time. At the center of the hall, on its velvet cushion, sat the crown. Putte did not bow. He did not kneel. He stood there, shaking, aware for the first time in his life that no one was telling him what to do. The crown moved. Not visibly, not like a thing leaping or floating, but the sense of it shifted, the way gravity shifts when you step onto a slope. The dark stone cleared, becoming deep and still as a night lake. Putte understood, suddenly, why it had waited. Bloodlines had been tracked through names, not truth. Through marriages arranged to look legitimate. Through heirs chosen for convenience. Generations ago, a king had fathered a child on a woman he later sold to the South Estates to erase the scandal. That child's name had been struck from the record. But blood does not forget. Putte was the remembering. When the guards burst into the hall, weapons raised, they found a slave standing very still while the Crown of Alderfall rested on his head as if it had always been there. No one struck him. No one could. The crown weighed nothing, yet every man in the room felt its pressure. Knees bent without command. Voices failed. Even the high priest, who arrived red-faced and furious, found himself staring at Putte with something dangerously close to awe. "He's a slave," someone whispered, as if that explained everything. The crown did not disagree. Putte was taken, not to the cells, but to the throne room. They tried to remove the crown. Hands slipped. Vision blurred. One man screamed that his fingers were burning, though there were no marks. By nightfall, the truth spread faster than orders could stop it. The crown had chosen. The next weeks were not kind. Putte was taught to read histories that erased people like him. He was dressed in fine clothes that still felt like lies. Lords bowed with clenched teeth. Some plotted openly. Others smiled too wide. The word slave followed him like a shadow, always whispered, never forgotten. Putte listened. He remembered the estates, the chains, the way laws were written to sound clean while grinding people into dust. When his first decree came, it was short. All slaves of the crown were freed. The court erupted. The high priest shouted about tradition. The generals warned of unrest. Putte sat very still on the throne, the crown steady on his head, and spoke only once more. "Then let the unrest come," he said. "It already lives among us." The crown stone darkened, not with anger, but with certainty. Years later, songs would argue over what to call him. King Putte, the slave king, the crown born. None of it quite fit. Statues would be carved that made him taller, broader, cleaner than he ever was. But the crown never left him. And when people asked why it had chosen a slave at last, the oldest answer returned: older than bloodlines, older than halls of stone. A crown does not care who is meant to rule. It cares who remembers what power is for.